Hello, I'm Elif and this is a recap for episode 40 of the series One Love, 24 hours after Turkey and before dubbed for TV. When Doğa tells Fatih they don't need to get married, Doğa is shocked. Fatih takes her hand and says, everything will be better than before. I promise you. When Doğa is alone, she looks at the ring Fatih gave her with disgust and says to herself, don't back down, Doğa. You'll find your way. At the breakfast table in the Ünal household, Pembe enthusiastically talks about the circumcision ceremony for her son Soren. Doğa, surprised, asks, didn't you do the circumcision at the hospital? Pembe replies, this is a foreign tradition. Can it be done without a ceremony? I had both my sons circumcised at 7. Doğa remarks, I wish you would also think about the child's mental and emotional well-being. It might have a negative impact. Nilay becomes concerned. Mary tells her father that she plans to visit Metehan's house that night with Kayman. Ertuğrul, not pleased with Mary's association with Metehan, says he prefers her to only communicate with Kayman. Mary gets upset, but Ertuğrul becomes stern and insists she should follow his rules. Omid, during household accounting, realizes the situation is dire, and they have no choice but to cut more expenses, so he turns off the radiators. The next day, when Nizama comes out of the shower and shivers from the cold in the house, Omid tells her that when he was single, he used to turn on only one radiator when at home. If Nizama is okay with it, they can warm the house this way for a while. Reluctantly, Nizama agrees. Nilay, troubled by Doğa's words about circumcision, seeks advice, and Doğa, fearing Pembe's interference, simply says if she were in Nilay's place, she would have done the circumcision sooner. Nilay talks to Mustafa, convincing him to circumcise their son without informing anyone. Mustafa also asks for Omar's opinion, and Omar says his priority should be his family, and no one should interfere. When Doğa tells Bizar about Fatih's reaction to her lawyer, Bizar says, Fatih must be aware of your plan. Doğa says, what should I do? Now I have to sleep beside him. I can't bear it. Bizar advises, it's a tough situation, but you need to find a way to convince him. At the dinner table that night, in an attempt to persuade Fatih to agree to marriage, Doğa, in front of her family, speaks with victimhood, expressing her strong desire for a formal marriage. However, Fatih disagrees. Everyone reproaches Fatih, and he says, Doğa wants to marry me again to gain custody of our daughter and separate from me. She has hired a lawyer. Chaos ensues. Doğa asks, are you stalking me? Fatih retorts, I wish you were honest with me. If you haven't forgiven me, why did you come back? Doğa responds, because you forced me. All of you forced me. The argument between Fatih and Doğa continues in their room. Doğa tells Fatih she will take custody of their daughter. Fatih mockingly says, you returned to this house, didn't you? I asked you to marry me, but you refused. I can use this against you in court. Unlike you, I have plenty of witnesses. Doğa attacks Fatih angrily, and Pembe enters the room, putting an end to their quarrel. When Pembe contacts Nizama, she realizes Nizama is in severe cold, and she informs Abdullah. Abdullah sends his son Yusuf, along with the family doctor, to Nizama's house. After the doctor examines Nizama, he informs Abdullah that her health is stable but the house was very cold, likely due to the high utility bills. Shortly afterward, Abdullah and Pembe go to Nizama's house with a large amount of groceries. Nizama mentions her broken radiators, causing the house to be extremely cold. Abdullah, upset by Nizama's conditions, quickly leaves. Doğa takes Fatih to her lawyer to make everything clear and ensure Fatih knows that she is not defenseless. Bizar says, I've won impossible cases. We'll try every possible avenue. Fatih, with a smile, adds, I'm trying every avenue too. I have another winning card. Doğa betrayed me. Bizar is shocked. Doğa claims it's not true, stating this lie to upset Fatih. Bizar tells Doğa, I need to be able to trust my client. How could you conceal this from me? You can't imagine the consequences of such lies. She advises Doğa to talk to another lawyer. On the way, Pembe tells Abdullah to think about Nizama's situation, mentioning her illness and empty refrigerator. Pembe criticizes the fact that, despite all their wealth, Nizama lives in poverty. Abdullah responds that Nizama asked him not to interfere in her life, and unless she asks for help, he won't do anything. Ertuğrul asks Kivilcim to have a meeting with him to discuss Mary and the changes that occurred after Ibrahim's incident. Omar, who sees them in front of Kivilcim's house, immediately calls his friend Ganch. Upon Panbehir's order, Tezluka brings an electric heater for Nisama and Omid. However, when they try to turn them on, the apartment's power is cut off. Tezluka suggests to Omid to use the neighbor's electricity, and Omid, out of desperation, agrees. Tezluka returns to Nilai's house and explains the situation. Nilai and Ibrahim try to convince Panbeh to cancel the circumcision of their son, but eventually, Panbeh discovers their plan and becomes furious. Abdullah scolds Ibrahim and Nilai for doing this secretly. Ertuğrul opens up to Kivilcim about Mary, and Kivilcim suggests that Mary has grown up in a tough environment, having also suffered a blow from Ibrahim. She advises Ertuğrul to gradually integrate her into their lives. Ertuğrul promises to support Kivilcim in helping one of her viewers. Meanwhile, Omar enters the restaurant with Ganch. Kivilcim becomes very upset. Omar says to Ganch, "Now that we've been seen together, she has banished me from her heart." Shortly after, Kivilcim goes to the restroom, and Ganch follows her. Kivilcim tells Ganch, "I don't want to be rude, but what do you have that I don't? I don't want to blame you, but I was very sure of Omar's love." Ganch is tempted to reveal the truth for a moment but only says, "I was a bit at fault too. I took the first step." Kivilcim wishes them happiness and Ganch adds, "Sometimes you need to see the bigger picture. Maybe it's not what it seems." Omar arrives home feeling distressed and speaks to God, asking for guidance. Shortly after, someone knocks, and when Omar opens the door, he sees his twin brother, Bakir, behind it, causing him to be horrified. Bakir enters and says, "I know you need me. I came to help you, brother." Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode.